If you'll remember, back in the 2023 class, four-star linebacker Tausili Akana took 8 visits in 8 days during the month of June. Now, while he ended up signing with Texas, that streak, of course, made him one of the most intriguing prospects of this cycle. So we're going to continue that trend with some similar prospects in 2024 who are getting ready for a very busy month. Blair, let's start with 5-star edge Dylan Stewart. He is one of the most highly sought-after players in the cycle, and now that players are able to take more than 5 official visits, it's likely that Stewart is going to take advantage of that rule change. So what are you watching with his recruitment heading into this month?
Dylan Stewart has a number of big-time official visits scheduled. He will be at Georgia this coming weekend. You've also got Miami, Ohio State, South Carolina. I know Alabama is also hovering around for the big-time pass rusher. But for me, it's about Ohio State and the Buckeyes, and how hard will Ryan Day and that coaching staff push for a commitment and for maybe the process to continue to go after a player like this because of some of the misses that they had in the 2023 recruiting cycle at edge, like a Keon Keeley, like a Mateo Uiagalelei, and others. There were players that they were in on that they just didn't get. So I think when you look at their recruiting board, there might not be a more important recruit for them in this cycle than Dylan Stewart. You know, you think about Georgia and what they offer, and they're obviously chasing the best class ever. You think about Miami being in the picture as well with Jason Taylor and what he brings as a recruiter. We mentioned Alabama, we mentioned South Carolina, but for me, Ohio State is the school that needs Dylan Stewart the most.
Yeah, a lot of eyes on this prospect. Speaking of, I got eyeballs on the chat right now and the likes, and we have less than half the amount of people that are watching this video have hit that like button. So if you hear the sound of my voice, go ahead and smash that like button. We would love to hear from you guys and see, you know, that you're engaging and that you're watching, and hopefully that we have earned the ability for you to hit that like button. So please go ahead and do that. Let's continue with some of these interesting prospects. Same position, same star status for Jamonta Waller, the elite prospect from Mississippi, is considering heading to the Northeast. Penn State after him, as well as really most of the SEC. So what has your attention when it comes to Waller's recruitment?
It's got to be Ole Miss for me, and that's because that's a school that has to recruit well in state. You know, none of the visits right now scheduled for Ole Miss, but I think the Rebels have to fend off, and they have to hope that Jamonta Waller doesn't come off the board before he makes it back to campus. In last cycle, they signed the 2 best players from the state of Mississippi in Suntarine Perkins and Aiden Williams. But Emily, here's a little history lesson. Before this past recruiting cycle, you'd have to go all the way back to the 2015 class for the last time the Rebels signed the top-rated high school recruit in the state of Mississippi, 5-star Javon Patterson, the offensive lineman. So Jamonta Waller would certainly qualify as a huge target for Lane Kiffin. So was last year a fluke? Was it kind of a change in the guard? Is Lane Kiffin really going to be able to build a fence around the state of Mississippi? Or are we going back to that trend, right, where we see the top player from that state leave for another SEC school? So that's what I'm looking for. Will Jamonta Waller maybe lean a certain way this month of June, or will Ole Miss continue to really make inroads there with the in-state recruits?
Very interesting recruitment there. High school that really comes up a lot on this show, Mater Dei. Big names come out of that program every year, but let's focus on 4-star offensive lineman Deandre Carter. He has a few officials scheduled, so what should we watch out for when it comes to Carter?
For me, it's got to be USC, right? This is a program that needs to get bigger, they need to get stronger, and they need to get more physical up front ahead of the move to the Big Ten, which is going to be a more bruising style of football. They will have to control the line of scrimmage against the likes of Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State and Wisconsin and the schools that love to run the football and stop the run. So Deandre Carter qualifies as that. He plays offensive tackle at the high school level, but he projects as the #1 interior offensive line prospect in this class. And what better way to start off an offensive line class than to continue to build a pipeline there at Mater Dei and keep one of the top Southern California prospects home. Deandre Carter, I think, would be that guy for USC. That's the visit that I'm looking at. Obviously, he will also be heading out to Michigan State, and there's maybe a little Big Ten flavor there in that recruitment. But for the Trojans, Deandre Carter has to qualify as perhaps the most important interior offensive line prospect. His teammate Brandon Baker, the #1 rated offensive tackle in the country, is obviously the big priority at tackle for the Trojans.
Pretty decent offensive line there. Spectacular. Still trying to wrap my mind around USC and Michigan State battling within the Big Ten for recruits, but you are correct there. Finally, 4-star running back Jerrick Gibson is a prospect to keep an eye on as the month progresses, as June is stacked with official visits every single weekend. Look at his calendar. Crystal balls right now pointing to Texas, but you see Miami, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee. They're not giving up yet. So what are you watching heading into a busy month for the #2 running back?
Emily, I am following the visits. Texas gets that last shot at the end of the month, before the summer, before the dead period, before recruits essentially shut down those trips and begin to focus on their senior seasons. Can Texas close the deal with the top-rated running back from the state of Florida for the second consecutive recruiting cycle after landing C.J. Baxter in the 2023 class? They would be pairing him, obviously, with Arch Manning in a backfield. They would be forming a potent backfield in that offense. Steve Sarkisian wants to bring that Florida speed ahead of a move in conferences. We mentioned USC heading over to the Big Ten. Well, how about Texas and Oklahoma heading over to the SEC? You got to get more speed. You got to get faster if you're going to be able to adjust to that SEC style. So Jerrick Gibson there, I think Texas is in the driver's seat to be able to get that last visit in the month of June, but obviously those other schools still making a strong push and will try to continue their pursuit here as we kick off the month of June.
I love it. I know somebody that knows that prospect pretty well. It's one half of the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast. Andrew Ivins has seen him up close and personal many times. Also, Cooper Patagna is part of the podcast, too. Make sure you are listening. New episodes drop every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts.